In the year 2167, the demon race conquered the world, and humanity finally fell. Cities lay in ruins, the sky burned with ash, and hope had long since disappeared. Amidst all this destruction, only one man remained standing against the invaders. He was Si Chen, an SS-rank lightning assassin, and the last hope of humanity. All of this had begun 7 years ago, when several demon kings descended upon Earth. Among them was the mighty Lanu, whose arrival marked the beginning of mankind's downfall. Now, standing face to face with Si Chen, Lanu looked down at him with disdain. He scoffed and called him nothing more than pathetic garbage, mocking the weakness of the human race. With a cruel smile, the Demon King declared that Si Chen had only one final purpose left. Dark, sinister energy began to gather in Lanu's hand. Twisting and pulsing with overwhelming power, he announced that Si Chen would become his food, absorbed along with his strength. And without hesitation, he launched the attack. The massive energy blast rushed towards Si Chen, leaving him with nowhere to escape. As it struck him, memories flooded his mind. He remembered the people he had lost, first and foremost, his beloved sister, lying injured and helpless. He then saw the faces of his fallen comrades, those who had fought beside him till the very end. Finally, the image of his great master, the man who had trained him for so many years, appeared before his eyes. Rage consumed him completely. All these people had been taken away by the demons. Because of that, Si Chen swore that even if it cost him his life, he would take Lanu down with him. Gathering everything he had left, Si Chen activated his ultimate ability, Terminus Arc, a massive explosion of blinding light erupted from his body. Shocked, the Demon King found himself unable to move. He stared in disbelief, wondering what kind of power this human possessed. As his body began to break apart, Si Chen unleashed all of his remaining strength in one final, desperate attack. The light grew brighter, swallowing everything around him. In those final moments, the memory of his injured sister flashed through his mind once again. Then came the image of his master, who had guided him through endless years of training. Lastly, he remembered his happy family, a peaceful time that would never return. Accepting his fate, Si Chen felt deep regret. He lamented that he wasn't strong enough to protect them. He wished he had been just a little stronger, because maybe then, everything would have turned out different. As the explosion raged on, the Demon King cursed him in fury, unable to believe that he was being defeated by a human, by what he called an inferior race. Even in death, Si Chen regretted not discovering the demon's lair sooner. If he had stopped the first Demon King, perhaps all this suffering could have been avoided. Perhaps he wouldn't have lost everyone he loved so early in his life. Suddenly, the blinding light vanished. All Si Chen could see was a light fixture on the ceiling. Slowly, he opened his eyes, still dazed and confused. His body felt strange, yet unharmed. Looking around, he realized he was lying in a bed inside a simple room. Sitting up in shock, he wondered how he could still be alive. Completely lost, he tried to understand where he was and how he had ended up there. He walked over to the window to get a better look. What he saw left him stunned. He was inside a school infirmary. This was impossible. The world should have already been destroyed. After a moment, Si Chen forced himself to calm down. Slowly, he began to accept the unbelievable truth. Somehow, he had gone back in time, 10 years into the past, to his college days. Suddenly, a strange static-like sound echoed in his head. Right after that, a message appeared before his eyes. The power of gluttony has been fully integrated. Looking at the screen, he confirmed the date, May 16th, 2057. This meant only one thing. He had truly returned 10 years into the past. Before everything happened, our guy finally realizes something important. This moment is 3 years before the descent of the fearsome Demon Kings. In exactly 3 years, the first of them, known as Wrath, will arrive and begin the destruction of the world. It was Wrath who opened the gates to the demon realm, allowing the other Demon Kings to invade Earth. That single event marked the beginning of total annihilation and the reason Si Chen lost everything. But now, as he looks down at his own hands, our protagonist knows that things will be different this time. If he can defeat Wrath, then he can stop the gates from ever opening. And if the gates never open, the future itself can be changed. At that moment, the same message from before appears again in front of him, confirming once more that the integration of the power of gluttony is complete. Si Chen frowns, wondering what this strange interface is. Ever since he woke up, it has been floating silently before his eyes. Curious, he reaches out and touches the screen. His fingers pass through what feels like pure energy and flowing data. Suddenly, the interface expands, revealing a flood of information that leaves him completely stunned. A status screen appears. It displays his name, Chen, along with all his attributes, each marked at level 100. Our hero is completely confused. In his past life, he had never seen anything like this. He had relied only on his awakened power, nothing more. In this world, only 1 out of every 10,000 people can awaken and obtain a unique class. And the college he attends is the best in the country, created specifically to recruit and train these future heroes. Yet in his past life, Si Chen was a complete failure. He never awakened at all. That was why he was constantly bullied and beaten down. Suddenly, the interface begins to glow again, displaying new information. A detailed file appears: Lightning Assassin, Class, listing all of its abilities and traits. Si Chen freezes. This was the exact same class he had in his past life. A familiar power stirs within him, sending chills down his spine. He wonders if he somehow inherited his former strength. If that's true, then it means he awakened much earlier this time. Determined, our protagonist decides to test this new power and see what it can do. But before he can act, he hears a sound. The door suddenly opens, and a surprised boy rushes inside. It's Malong, an E-rank flower enchanter. He quickly runs over and anxiously asks if Si Chen is awake and whether he's feeling okay. Our hero calmly replies that he's fine. At the same time, he realizes something important. Just as he suspected, no one else can see the interface. Malong stares at him in disbelief. He can't believe that all of Si Chen's injuries are completely gone, especially after the brutal beating he suffered yesterday. Completely baffled, Malong doesn't know what to say. This boy is Si Chen's college roommate. Seeing him again causes Si Chen's heart to tighten. In his past life, Malong had died. Knowing that his friend is alive fills him with genuine happiness. Looking at Malong, Si Chen finally feels certain. He truly has gone back in time. Malong then remembers something important. The ranking test is tomorrow, and they need to prepare, saying that the test is crucial for their graduation assessment. He grabs Si Chen and pulls him out of the infirmary room. Outside, they enter the massive college courtyard, which is filled with students preparing for the test. All around them, students are training, some practicing combat techniques, others activating their abilities. A few are running drills, while some casually play ball nearby. The scene is strangely peaceful. Watching this, Si Chen quietly comments that it's been a long time since he's seen so many living people. Malong is a bit spooked by the comment and nervously suggests that they just take a walk around the courtyard. As they walk, our protagonist falls into deep thought. He reflects on how he had already lost everything once before. Si Chen knows that if he does nothing, that same hopeless future will repeat itself all over again. If he does nothing, the future will simply repeat itself. Realizing this, Si Chen decides that he must act immediately. He needs to grow stronger as fast as possible. However, there's a serious problem. The only way to level up is by hunting monsters in the demon layers, and those areas are completely monopolized by the major guilds. Outsiders like him don't stand a chance of getting access. Still, Si Chen begins to wonder just how strong he is right now with his current stats. Among students, most are only E rank, and only true geniuses ever reach D rank. Even with all his past life experience, he's curious to see what rank he might achieve in tomorrow's test. Looking at Malong, he's certain of one thing. At the very least, he's already far stronger than his friend. Suddenly, a basketball comes flying through the air and smashes straight into Malong's face. The poor guy doesn't even have time to react. He's knocked off his feet and crashes to the ground, clutching his face in pain. A mocking voice echoes out as a group of students appears at the top of the stairs. A gang of bullies has arrived. Their leader smirks and comments that the two of them recovered pretty quickly from the last beating they took. Malong turns pale. He's terrified. They've run into this guy again. Si Chen, however, shows no fear at all. He calmly steps forward and faces the group head-on. The bully glances at Malong and remarks with fake admiration that the two of them are surprisingly tough. Then, wearing an arrogant smirk, he asks why they didn't bring drinks for his crew. Malong panics immediately. He bows his head and starts apologizing, saying he'll go buy the drinks right away. But before he can leave, Si Chen stops him. He calmly tells Malong that he did nothing wrong, and that it should be them who apologize instead. Hearing this, Si Chen remembers what happened yesterday. In his memory, the same group of bullies is seen forcing his head into a toilet, giving him a swirly. They beat him mercilessly, laughing the entire time. Malong desperately begged them to stop, but no one listened. Their leader smiled and said he was just trying to help. Since Si Chen hadn't awakened yet, he figured a little push might motivate him. The group burst into laughter, clearly enjoying his suffering. When Si Chen finally passed out, they lost interest and walked away. Malong had rushed to his side, shaking him and calling his name, terrified as his friend lay unconscious on the floor. Back then, Si Chen had wondered why those people would never leave them alone. Returning to the present, he realizes something important. Evil doesn't exist only in the demon layers, it exists in the human world too. The bully grows excited by Si Chen's defiant response. Grinning widely, he tells his friends that it looks like they're going to have some more fun today. He repeats his question, demanding to know why they didn't bring drinks for him and his buddies. Malong tries to apologize again, offering to go buy drinks immediately. Once more, Si Chen stops him. He tells his friend firmly that they have nothing to apologize for. The bully looks confused, clearly not understanding what Si Chen means. Malong is also startled by his friend's sudden confidence and quietly asks him what he's saying. At that moment, Gong Chen, an E-rank flower warrior, steps forward. He slowly walks toward them with a smug expression. Si Chen locks eyes with him, showing not a single shred of fear. He stands firm, ready for whatever comes next. He knows the truth. Gong Kun only acts so arrogant because his older brother is the council president. As the tension rises, other students begin to gather at a distance, forming a loose crowd around them. Whispers spread, and mocking laughter fills the air as everyone starts making fun of the pair. The crowd continues mocking them, calling the two of them the most useless guys in the entire school. Gongcheng steps closer to Si Chen, glaring at him as his fists begin to glow with energy. With an angry expression, he asks what Si Chen just said, making it clear that he didn't like the answer at all. Completely unfazed, Si Chen calmly replies that they should stop bothering them and leave them alone. Annoyed, Gongcheng sneers and says that Si Chen clearly needs another beatdown to learn his lesson. Without warning, he lunges forward and throws a punch straight at Si Chen's face, using all his strength. To everyone's shock, Si Chen dodges the punch effortlessly and immediately strikes Gongcheng's arm. The students watching from the sidelines are stunned. They can't believe what they just saw happen right in front of them. Even Malong is in disbelief. Si Chen not only blocked the attack, but as far as anyone knew, he hadn't even awakened yet. Gongcheng explodes with rage. He refuses to accept being challenged by a weakling he's always bullied. But to Si Chen, this is the perfect opportunity. He decides to test his newly gained power right here. In that moment, the class change completes, and Si Chen officially becomes a level 1 electric assassin. Lightning begins to crackle around his body. Malong stammers in shock, asking when Si Chen awakened, but Si Chen ignores the question completely. His eyes remain locked on Gongcheng, his gaze cold and unshaken. Furious, Gongcheng activates his indestructible demon armor and charges forward, shouting that he'll make Si Chen taste his killer punch once again. This time, however, Si Chen doesn't back away. Covered in lightning, he steps forward to meet the attack head-on. In a swift motion, Si Chen delivers a powerful punch straight into Gongcheng's face. The impact is overwhelming. Gongcheng is sent flying across the school courtyard, crashing down far away. Everyone's jaw drops. No one can believe that Si Chen just sent Gongcheng flying with a single punch. Lying on the ground, the bully curses loudly and accuses Si Chen of using a sneak attack. He then yells at his friends, asking if they're just going to stand there and watch. But Gongcheng's friend is frozen in fear, unable to even form a sentence. Si Chen stands there surrounded by lightning, his eyes glowing, looking absolutely terrifying. Still unwilling to give up, Gongcheng shouts that he's going to finish this. Gathering everything he has left, he charges in again with full force. This time, Si Chen stops the attack with just one hand. He catches Gongcheng's fist effortlessly. Gongcheng's eyes widen in shock. He can't believe his punch was stopped so easily. Looking down at him coldly, Si Chen tells him that they are simply too weak. Then without hesitation, Si Chen lands a full-power electric punch straight into Gongcheng's face. The impact is insane. Gongcheng is thrown backward before he even realizes what hit him. He flies several meters through the air before crashing violently into the ground, cracking the concrete beneath him. With just that single blow, the fight is over. The bully lies in a broken heap on the ground, completely defeated. Everyone watching is utterly stunned. One student stands there with his jaw hanging open, his glasses cracked, unable to comprehend what he just witnessed. They all wonder how Si Chen became so unbelievably strong. Meanwhile, Si Chen calmly looks at his status screen and reaches a few conclusions. First, he realizes that he can switch to the electric assassin class whenever he wants. Second, he understands something even more shocking. Even at level 1, he is already terrifyingly strong enough to handle the weaker awakened. But even so, Si Chen still doesn't know his exact rank. As he thinks about it, he realizes there's another problem. Looking at his status screen, he notices that nothing changed even after defeating Gongcheng. An idea suddenly pops into his head. He walks over to the fallen bully, making Malong and the others panic. They think Si Chen is about to finish Gongcheng off for good. Ignoring their shouts, Si Chen calmly brings his lightning-covered hand close to Gongcheng's face. He wonders if gaining experience works the same way as in his past life. Before he can test his theory, a clear voice cuts through the tension. A blonde girl steps forward and tells him to stop. She introduces herself as Lin Yu, the vice president of the student council. She says that the punishment has already been sufficient and assures him that the bully won't bother them anymore. Si Chen turns to her and asks why the student council seems so eager to protect him. He explains that he wasn't going to do anything. But people like Gongcheng never stop unless they're properly put in their place. Seeing the cold look on Si Chen's face, Gongcheng's friends grow terrified. They quickly swear that they'll never provoke him again. As Si Chen and Malong walk away, the students watching are still unsure. They whisper among themselves, wondering if those two are really the same losers from before. Lin Yu simply watches them leave. Afterward, she tells her group that they can go as well. Later that night, the scene shifts to the men's dormitory at the college. Inside their room, Malong excitedly tries to convince his roommates that Si Chen truly awakened. He passionately tells them how Si Chen completely wiped the floor with Gongcheng and his group of idiots. A core mage scoffs at the story and asks where Si Chen is now. He says it's ridiculous to believe that someone so strong would still need to do basic physical training like running. A flower enchanter named Shang Yuyu agrees, saying Malong must have hit his head. After all, the four of them were placed in the same dorm because they were labeled the worst students of the year. Shang Zhu suddenly gets worked up and says that he's only the fourth worst, which technically makes him number 1 in that room. He proudly brags that he's the only one with a combat class. while the others are just support types. Shu adds that Si Chen is far too weak to be a lightning assassin. He then reminds everyone that tomorrow is the final ranking test, and everything will become clear then. That test will decide who the strongest among them really is. Meanwhile, inside an E-rank training lair, a massive flame lights up the surroundings. A fiery portal opens, and a well-dressed man with slightly stained clothes steps out. This is Gong Ting, the student council president and Gong Cheng's older brother. With a cold gaze, Gong Ting tells his group that today's training is over and orders them to leave. Before walking away, he casts a disdainful glance at one of his followers. Soon after, Gong Ting finds his younger brother waiting for him, covered in bandages and bruises. Gong Cheng complains that he won't be able to sleep unless his brother gets revenge for him. Calmly, Gong Ting replies that he already got the message and will take care of it. He assures his brother that he'll resolve the situation as soon as possible. Later, Gong Ting sits down for dinner with Lin Yu. As she calmly cuts a piece of steak, the vice president asks how he plans to handle the situation. Now that his brother has been beaten so badly, Gong Ting responds by asking if that guy is really as strong as his brother claims. Lin Yu begins to explain that. Lin Yu continues explaining that less than 10 people in the entire school have reached D rank, and Gong Ting has already recruited every single one of them. She adds that the remaining students don't have access to the demon layers, which means they have no way to improve further. Meanwhile, outside the campus, Si Chen is running through the rain as part of his daily training. His body is weighed down by 100 kilograms, yet he still runs a distance of 20 kilometers every day. This kind of basic training strengthens his physical body, which is absolutely essential for any powerful awakened. Even so, Si Chen knows deep down that this level of effort is still far from enough. As rain pours down around him, memories resurface. He remembers the year 2160, the day the demon king of Wrath descended upon the world. It was on that very day that his only remaining family, his sister, was taken from him by that monster. Wrath was the one who opened the gates to the demon realm, allowing countless demons to invade Earth. That single moment marked the beginning of everything. Because of that, Si Chen knows his first and most important goal. He must stop Wrath if he can. Eliminate the demon king of Wrath. He can prevent the gates from ever opening. Wrath is the source of all the destruction that followed. There are only 3 years left until Wrath's arrival, and Si Chen must become stronger, faster than the demon king himself. Suddenly, in the middle of the rain, his phone starts vibrating in his pocket. He pulls it out and freezes. It's a call from his sister. The name on the screen makes his heart tremble. It's Sun, his younger sister, returning the many missed calls he had made earlier. With shaking hands, Si Chen answers. The moment he hears her voice, everything inside him tightens. On the other end of the line, his sister cheerfully explains that her phone had died during a competition. She excitedly tells him that if she wins, their rent problem will finally be solved. Si Chen remembers how, in that ruined future, he had prayed endlessly for a second chance. His sister notices his silence and asks if everything is okay, wondering if it's raining where he is. With tears mixing into the rain, Si Chen tells her it's nothing, that everything is fine. He simply says that it's been a long time since he's heard her voice, even though she doesn't understand what he truly means. After the call ends, Si Chen stops for a brief moment. He knows it now. Everything has truly started over, and this time he will not fail. With renewed determination, he continues running through the rain. No matter the cost, he will grow stronger. He will protect the people he loves, and the world he nearly lost forever. Later, back in the dormitory, Si Chen takes a shower and slowly adjusts to his younger body, one filled with untapped potential. As he dries off, his thoughts turn serious. He knows his biggest problem hasn't been solved yet. To level up, he must enter the demon layers, but those areas are tightly controlled by powerful guilds. Only the rich and influential are allowed access, which means ordinary people have no way to hunt monsters or grow stronger. So the question remains, how will he find monsters? On top of that, he still doesn't understand what the mysterious power of gluttony truly is. Suddenly, the gluttony system activates. Before he can react, Si Chen is pulled into a strange space. His body crashes down hard as he lands in a bizarre world with a crimson floor and a reddish sky stretching endlessly above him. In the distance, he sees a massive, sinister tower, towering over everything else. He has no idea what it is, or where he is. Completely confused, Si Chen wonders what just happened. Just moments ago, he was sleeping. Back in the real world, Malong casually tells the others that Si Chen went out for a run. But in reality, Si Chen is somewhere else entirely, standing in that strange realm, staring at the ominous tower. Suddenly, he hears a sound. Turning around, he realizes that bizarre skeletal creatures are approaching him. These monsters are unfamiliar. Sanjo E-rank cloud warriors. Creatures he's never seen before. Seeing them, Si Chen wonders if he's been transported into some kind of demon lair. Without hesitation, he prepares for battle. Even though he doesn't understand what's happening, he immediately activates his electric assassin class. Lightning begins to surge around his body as his abilities awaken. Ready to face the threat head-on, the class change immediately boosts his speed and attack power. Without hesitation, the skeletal creatures charge straight toward Si Chen. But with his newly gained speed, he effortlessly dodges their attacks and slices through them, yellow lightning flashing with every movement. With a clean strike, he shatters one of their skulls. As the creature collapses, 3 fangs drop as loot. Encouraged, Si Chen continues his assault, annihilating the skeletal monsters one by one. With each takedown, more fangs scatter across the ground. At this point, Si Chen realizes something important. With his current strength, defeating these E-rank monsters is ridiculously easy for him. Not only does he gain items, but he also receives 52 experience points per kill. As the experience accumulates, a notification appears. He is leveled up. Si Chen reaches level 2. Looking at his status screen, he notices that all his attributes have increased by 5 points. That's when it hits him. He can actually level up inside this place. This isn't a normal demon lair. It's something else entirely. A realization dawns on him. This feels like a private training lair, created just for him. Before he can think further, the ground trembles. A powerful presence emerges, and a massive figure steps forward. It's the Sanjo King, an E-rank cloud warrior boss. Without warning, the creature fires a devastating energy beam straight at him. Instead of panicking, Si Chen sees this as the perfect opportunity to test his strength. Lightning surges around his body as he launches himself into battle. When the fight finally ends, the result is clear. Si Chen levels up again, now reaching level 3. As rewards, he obtains 18 fangs and a crystal. Looking at his updated stats, he realizes he leveled up twice in an incredibly short time. Boss monsters truly do give massive experience. But then, something unexpected happens. A strange message appears above the defeated boss's body. Absorption available. Si Chen freezes. He doesn't understand what it means. Absorption? That shouldn't be possible. Hesitating for only a moment, he reaches out his hand to test this mysterious option. Suddenly, a brilliant light envelops him. As it does, Si Chen feels a dark energy begin to flow from the monster's remains and surge toward his body. The energy gathers into his fist as he absorbs it completely. When the light fades, the monster's body is gone, replaced by a class card floating in the air. Holding the card, Si Chen finally understands. He can absorb enemies and turn them into classes. The shock hits him like a thunderbolt. A memory flashes through his mind. A vision of himself being consumed by a brilliant light. Within that memory, the figure of the Demon King Len Yu appears. The scene repeats, clearer this time, revealing the truth. This power belongs to the greedy Moon Demon Lord. As Si Chen's eyes glow, he realizes the horrifying truth. The devouring power of the Demon Lords now belongs to him. In this world, classes are divided into strong and weak, but everyone can only possess one. Yet Si Chen now holds 2 classes at the same time, completely breaking the rules of the world. And if he can absorb monsters, then he could obtain countless classes. The sheer potential leaves him both shocked and determined. But even so, questions remain. How did he obtain such an absurd power? And more importantly, what exactly is that demonic tower standing before him? Suddenly, a crushing pressure descends from above, distorting the air and weighing down everything around him. Si Chen stiffens, barely able to breathe. He has no idea what's happening in this strange place. Then a voice echoes through the space. It greets him, saying that he has finally arrived, and that it has been waiting for him. From the shadows, a lord-like figure slowly emerges. The being calls Si Chen by name, revealing that it already knows who he is. In this world, awakened beings are ranked by the government from E to S, from weakest to strongest. Before Si Chen can react, he's suddenly sent flying by a surprise attack, crashing hard into the ground. He grits his teeth. In his past life, it took everything he had just to reach S rank, and even then he nearly died countless times. Now he's barely at D rank, and to make matters worse, the being standing before him is clearly far beyond his current level. The being standing before him is an S rank, its power far beyond anything Si Chen can currently handle. Steeling himself, Si Chen prepares to fight. He can't understand what kind of place would contain an S-rank monster, nor how this mysterious being even knows his name. They clash. Again and again, they exchange dozens of blows. But with each exchange, Si Chen becomes painfully aware of the truth. The Lord could have killed him many times over. Instead, every strike deliberately avoids his vital points, knocking him away again and again as if to demonstrate overwhelming superiority. Finally, the Lord delivers a devastating blow, sending Si Chen flying effortlessly. Rising slowly, battered and bruised, Si Chen hears the creature speak. It asks whether he will continue to resist its will. In that moment, Si Chen realizes something terrifying. The monster doesn't want to kill him. It wants to subjugate him. The Lord then makes its offer. It tells Si Chen to remain here and guard the tower as its subordinate. Without hesitation, Si Chen refuses. He shouts that he will never stay in this cursed place. The response is immediate. A beam of dark energy shoots forward and pierces straight through his chest. Si Chen's eyes widen in shock. Blood spills from his mouth as he collapses, unable to believe what just happened. The Lord coldly explains that it had only been patient because Si Chen was the only one who had ever made it this far. Moments later, a sinister force wraps around Si Chen's body. lifting him helplessly into the air. Dark energy floods the space as the Lord releases its full power. For the final time, it asks him to choose. Either he stays, or he will be reduced to dust. Lightning crackles violently around Si Chen's body. Even on the brink of death, his eyes burn with resolve. He declares that he has only one choice. Then he charges forward, shouting that his decision is to take the Lord down. The boss scoffs, finding the attempt laughable, and prepares to crush him. Their powers collide in a massive explosion. Against all odds, Si Chen breaks through the dark energy and closes the distance for one final strike. As he attacks, he reveals that during their battle, he has already analyzed everything. The Lord has a 0.4-second wind-up before each attack. By calculating the blade's trajectory, Si Chen can dodge it. More importantly, after every strike, the boss has a 0.2-second delay. That tiny opening is the key. If he strikes during that moment, he can pierce the enemy's heart with a single blow. Si Chen knows the truth. He cannot win this fight. But the shock from that strike will stun the Lord for a few seconds. Before, he had no time to escape because the enemy was too fast. Now, those few seconds are more than enough. Without hesitation, Si Chen turns and runs. He shouts that there is only one source of light in this strange world. Reaching out, he leaps toward what he believes is the exit. But just as he gets close, the light vanishes. His heart sinks. The Lord's voice echoes behind him, calmly stating that the light was merely an illusion. It reveals that this place is not a demon lair at all. Despite everything, the creature sounds impressed. It praises Si Chen for finding a weakness so quickly, even in desperation. He analyzed every detail and risked his life for a chance that was almost non-existent. Then, the Lord finally reveals its identity. It calls itself the Infernal Rakshasa, a powerful S-rank Star Wars, for he had seen it once before on the body of the Demon King. Lan Yu Chan remembered his final battle in his previous life clearly. In that battle, Lan Yu switched between several high-rank classes with total ease. He was fighting as a giant icebird, then transforming into a fire warrior, then into a massive grass monster. Xian remembered well that among those many forms, there was a form that had exactly this appearance. Chen stood frozen in shock as a terrifying thought struck him. Did this mean that Roxia of Purgatory had been devoured by Lani? You using the power of gluttony? And if that power had now merged with his own body, then the truth became impossible to deny. This place was inside his own body. Raksha praised Xian's extraordinary mental strength and sharp wit, stating that he had proven himself worthy of everything this place contained. Xian listened in disbelief, still struggling to process his words. Everything. Here, he murmured. At that moment, a glowing object appeared before Raksha. It was the SSS rank Void Key, the only key capable of opening the gates of the demonic tower. Raksha explained that Lan Yu had devoured countless fierce demons over time, and the strongest among them had been sealed behind him. Inside the tower were monsters beyond imagination. Raksha urged Chen to devour them, all to grow stronger and turn every single one of them into fuel for his power. After receiving the key, Xian hesitated and asked Raksha in confusion why he was helping him like this. Raksha replied calmly that even within the demon race, there existed a line between good and evil. He revealed that the demon kings had slaughtered his entire clan, all to satisfy their endless greed. He had waited for an eternity for revenge, and now that chance stood before him. Raksha declared that that man had been right, and that Chan was the only hope capable of succeeding. Confused, Chan asked who this man was. In response, Raksha simply pointed toward the demonic tower. All the answers you seek are hidden inside, he said. Go and find them yourself. Suddenly, Raksha's body began to glow with a brilliant sky-blue energy. He offered his power to Xian, telling him to take it and make their enemies pay the price. Xian could hardly believe what he was hearing and hesitated, wondering if he truly had to accept such power. Raksha roared enthusiastically, ordering him to become unstoppable. He told Chen to open the gates of the demonic tower and devour everything inside it. However, he also warned him that the demons sealed within were far more cunning and terrifying than himself. You must endure everything, Raksha said firmly. Conquer them all. Stand at the peak of this world. Continue forward until you devour every single demon king. As Raksha's body slowly faded away, he declared that only a man with such determination was worthy of his power. A massive surge of energy exploded in Xian's hand. A victory screen appeared before his eyes, announcing that Xian's level had risen to 10 after devouring Raksha. He also obtained Raksha's underworld bones. Standing before the endless void, Xian clenched his fist and declared that he understood. He would carry Raksha's will with him. The devouring process was completed, and the Raksha of Purgatory card appeared, displaying powerful abilities such as Bone Fist Ruin and Triple Gravity Strike. Qin swore silently that he would make them all pay the price, in blood. Suddenly, Chen woke up to a loud noise. He was back in his dorm room. His roommates were rushing around, reminding each other to wear their school uniforms and not be late. Disoriented, Chan wondered if everything that had happened was nothing more than a dream. He quickly checked his body and noticed that all his wounds had completely healed. But when he checked his status system, the truth became clear. Everything was real. His level had risen to 10. and even the loot he had obtained in that mysterious place had returned with him. Realizing that he had jumped 10 levels in a single night, Si Chen couldn't help but wonder what rank he would now be classified as. Before he could think further, his roommate Xiang Zuo called out his name. With a sarcastic grin, Xiang Zuo mentioned that someone, referring to Ma Long, had been talking big about Chen the previous night, claiming he had become extremely strong. In a challenging tone, Xiang Zuo asked if Si Chen truly intended to overthrow his control as the strongest in the dorm. He invited him to go to the rank test and prove what he was really capable of. Xiang Zuo added that although their dorm was considered a group of rank E, each rank was divided into 3 layers, and they were currently only at the lowest level. Xiang Zuo declared confidently that while the others were still at low rank E, he himself was already at mid-rank E. He emphasized that the gap between each layer was enormous and claimed that he could easily face 10 of them at once. Walking ahead of the group, Xiang Zuo muttered to himself that perhaps his rank had risen since the last test. At that moment, Ma Long approached Xian with excitement, encouraging him to give his best performance. With a grin, he told him to aim directly for rank D, just to scare Xiang Zuo. Hearing this, Xian simply reflected on his words with faint sarcasm, saying nothing. Soon, the students arrived at the test arena, where the atmosphere was lively and filled with excitement. Everyone was preparing nervously, eager to prove themselves. As they entered, Xiang Zuo noticed a group of students, pushing others around arrogantly. It was Gong Qing's followers. Xiang Zuo suggested quietly that they move away from them to avoid unnecessary trouble. However, his expression changed the moment he realized that Gong Qing's followers had noticed them. Panic flashed across his face, but something unexpected happened. When Gong Qing's followers saw Xian, their expressions turned pale with fear. Shocked, they stared at him for a brief moment before suddenly bowing deeply with great respect. In loud voices, they welcomed him. "Big Brother Sen has arrived!" The entire scene stunned Xiang Zuo. He stared in disbelief, completely confused by the sudden respect shown towards Xian. Doubt crept into his heart, and he began to wonder if everything Ma Long had said earlier might actually be true. Ma Long, on the other hand, smiled triumphantly. Xian ignored the bowing followers entirely and continued walking forward calmly, as if nothing unusual had happened. Suddenly, a sharp voice echoed through the arena. "Si Chen." A man stepped forward. It was Zhang Jian, one of the student council officers. With a mocking smile, he remarked that he had heard about the small incident involving Gong Qing that happened the previous day. In a sarcastic tone, Zhang Jian asked Qian if he knew who Gong Qing really was. He then explained arrogantly that Gong Qing was the younger brother of their esteemed student council president Lord Gong Qing. The surrounding students immediately recognized Zhang Jian and whispered among themselves, calling him the president's pampered dog. Anxiety spread through the crowd. As everyone knew Zhang Jian was a powerful D-rank awakened, they couldn't understand why he was deliberately targeting Xian, and the atmosphere quickly became tense. Zhang Jian stepped closer to Xian with a smirk. "I have a very sharp sense of smell," he said proudly. "I can detect truly powerful people from a mile away." He leaned in closer, his face almost touching Xian's, and continued in a humiliating tone. "But from you," he sneered, "I smell nothing at all. Only the pathetic scent of someone destined to stay at the very bottom forever." Unfazed, our protagonist just stares at him and asks if he's some kind of dog. With that, Zhang Jin gets completely furious and yells, asking. Just as Zhang Jin was about to continue his outburst, another cold and authoritative voice echoed through the hall, ordering him to stop causing a scene. Everyone turned in surprise. It was Gong Ting, the president of the student council. Gong Ting calmly stated that he had already investigated the entire matter. After reviewing everything, he concluded that his brother was in the wrong. Turning toward Zhang Jian, he said in a firm tone that anyone who commits a mistake must pay the price for it. With that final remark, Zhang Jian could only grit his teeth and leave the scene in humiliation. Afterward, Gong Ting didn't move. Instead, he stood there silently, staring at Sen with a deep, thoughtful expression, as if trying to see through him. Chen met his gaze without flinching, maintaining eye contact with the same intensity. The air between them felt heavy, filled with unspoken tension. Soon after, the rank assessment test officially began. A teacher stepped forward and explained that every student would be called one by one. Gong Ting finally turned away and left with Zhang Jian, casually remarking that such Chen didn't seem like a major threat. From a high window overlooking the hall, a mysterious blonde woman watched everything unfold. Someone beside her asked why she was here and whether she had found any students worth paying attention to. With a faint smile, she replied that this test was going to be very interesting to watch. An hour later, the assessments finally began. The next name called was Xiang Zuo. With a determined expression, he stepped forward, fully prepared to reveal his true strength to everyone watching. Each test had to be conducted individually inside a training demon lair. Inside the chamber was a demonic heart, a special device capable of absorbing and analyzing a student's energy. The awakened had to release all of their power directly in front of it. Shangza took a deep breath and unleashed all his strength in a single, powerful blast toward the demonic heart. The heart absorbed the energy and transmitted the data through cables to an external machine. Moments later, the machine processed the information, and the results appeared on the screen. Shangzhu reached mid-E rank. The teacher confirmed the result but frowned slightly, noticing that another data field had not yet appeared. Milong grew visibly nervous and whispered that this was the real highlight of the test. In addition to current rank, the system could also measure a student's maximum potential. A second result soon appeared: C rank potential. Although this was considered impressive, Shang Zuo felt deeply disappointed. After 2 full years, his strength hadn't improved at all. He had hoped to reach D rank. With a heavy heart, he left the testing area. As the next students were called, his friends tried to comfort him, saying that they were even weaker. Unfortunately, that turned out to be true. Both Shang Yu and Milong only reached low E rank. Then suddenly, a new result flashed onto the screen. The 3 friends froze in shock. To everyone's amazement, the first D rank of the year appeared, sending the entire hall into an uproar. Cheers erupted from all directions. Not long after, another student reached D rank, but with an even more terrifying A rank potential. Seeing this, the 3 friends felt completely crushed. By now, it was already the 8th D rank of the day. The teachers were stunned. Normally, only 2 or 3 students reach D rank in an entire year. With most of the tests completed, the teacher prepared to announce the final student. The hall went quiet as the name was called: Gongting. The crowd immediately exploded in excitement. After all, this was the student council president and the young master of the Imperial Guild. People shouted countless titles, calling him the chosen one, while our protagonist watched silently from a distance. Many whispered that Gongting had already been D rank 2 years ago, and now wondered just how far he had progressed. Inside the testing chamber, the demonic heart pulsed as Gongting approached. Calm and confident, he placed his hand forward. In his mind, he decided to hold back a portion of his power, planning to reveal something even greater later. Even so, he was certain that his current strength would make him number 1 in the school's history. The machine began processing the data. Suddenly, the teacher's eyes widened in shock. The color of the energy displayed on the screen was completely different from everyone else's. Moments later, the final result appeared: high D rank, S rank potential. The hall erupted into chaos. No one had expected a high D rank, let alone an S rank potential. The crowd screamed in disbelief, unable to comprehend what they were seeing. Zhang Jian and his friends stood frozen, their faces pale as they stared at the screen. The crowd erupted in celebration, shouting at the top of their lungs that Gongting was the first in the school's history to achieve such a result. Maung's jaw dropped as he realized they had just witnessed history being made right in front of them. The teachers quickly confirmed the results and immediately decided to report the achievement to their superiors. The hall went completely wild. An awakened with S-rank potential was an extremely rare treasure, someone directly protected by the state. Moreover, as the son of the Imperial Guild's leader, Gongting's achievement was guaranteed to become national news. From a distance, the mysterious duo quietly observed the chaos. They commented that this year's test was revealing an unusual number of talented individuals. The man, Yuan Long, the university's director, turned to the woman and asked whether she already knew about Gongting's potential. She shook her head calmly and replied that she didn't. She added that she hadn't come all this way just to watch him perform. With a faint smile, she revealed that compared to Gongting, she was far more interested in another student's performance. At that moment, the focus shifted directly to our protagonist, who stood silently, watching everything unfold with a serious and unreadable expression. Soon after, the teacher announced the next and final student to be tested: Si Chen. As soon as his name was called, Jiang Jin stepped forward and shouted mockingly, telling Si Chen to at least bring some honor to their dorm. He sneered, saying that if all 4 of them were trash, then their dorm would become the biggest joke in the entire university. He continued his insults, claiming that a group of weaklings like them would only bring shame to the school. Unable to tolerate it anymore, Milong snapped and shouted back, telling that idiot to just wait and see the results. With all his strength, Milong yelled that Si Chen was going to blow everyone's minds. Seeing the escalating tension, Shang Yu and the others grew worried, unsure of what was about to happen. Inside the testing lair, Si Chen stepped into position and prepared himself. The demonic heart inside the booth pulsed quietly, ready to measure his energy. As he stood there, Si Chen reflected on reality. For an awakened to have a future, the only real path was to join a high-ranking guild, and the only way to catch the attention of those guilds was through the graduation combat assessment. The squad that secured first place would have all its members recruited by the powerful Imperial Guild. This meant that the current test wasn't merely about ranking students. It served a far greater purpose. Meanwhile, outside the chamber, Zheng Jin introduced Yanlin, a newly recruited D rank, to Gongting's group. He boasted confidently that with 9 D ranks this year in Gongchang, victory was practically guaranteed for them. The true aim of this test was now clear: to gather the strongest individuals for the final graduation assessment. However, as strong teams began to form, a team of weaklings was also taking shape. Maung grew increasingly uneasy. He wondered why Si Chen had been inside the booth for so long. There was no movement, and the results screen remained completely blank. Something felt off. Other students began mocking him, laughing that Si Chen's power must be so pathetic that the machine couldn't even register it. Some of them started leaving, losing interest. Jiang Jian scoffed and said that anyone still waiting was trash. Since their squad was already full, there was no reason to stay. Gong Ting agreed calmly and told him to call the rest of the team so they could finally leave. But just as they were about to turn away, the screen suddenly lit up. Everyone froze. The result displayed made the entire hall go silent. Si Chen, high D rank. Shock spread instantly. His dorm mates and the surrounding students stood there with their mouths wide open, unable to believe what they were seeing. Malong exploded in excitement, shouting at the top of his lungs that he had told everyone. Si Chen was strong, and now he had proven it. On the other side, Gong Ting and Zhang Jian were stunned. They had not expected Si Chen to reach high D rank, especially not under these circumstances. But before anyone could recover, the system suddenly issued a warning. Instability detected. Retest required. Inside the booth, Si Chen understood immediately. His base stats at level 10 were already equivalent to a high D rank. With that realization, he made a decision. He chose to test another power. Right there, inside the booth, he initiated the class change process. Once the transformation was complete, he activated Infernal Death King, his weakest dev class. In the next instant, the screen began flashing violently. Gasps echoed throughout the hall as his rank shifted before everyone's eyes. D rank, mid-C rank. Chaos erupted. His friends completely lost it, screaming and wondering how his rank had jumped again. Jiang Jian shouted furiously, claiming this was impossible and insisting that the testing machine had to be broken. The teachers fell into panic. They had never seen a rank change mid-assessment in their entire careers. And as they stared at the flashing screen, unsure of what to do next, a terrifying thought crossed their minds. This test might have just awakened something far beyond their understanding. The system failed. Once again, instability was detected, and the demonic heart began to tremble violently, almost as if it were sweating under the pressure of the overwhelming power. Seeing this, Si Chen realized that the result still wasn't final. If the system couldn't handle his current output, then he would simply push it to its absolute limit. Calmly, he decided to activate his other classes to see what the final result would be. This time, he activated Purgatory Rakshasa. The moment the power was released, the demonic heart reacted in pure terror. Cracks spread across its surface as if it were about to explode. At the same time, a dark purple energy surged upward, covering the entire sky above the testing grounds. A suffocating pressure descended. Gong Ting and the others instinctively looked up, their faces filled with disbelief as they wondered what in the world was happening. Si Chen's friends were shaken to the core. One of them muttered that this had to be an omen, that history was being rewritten today. In that moment, they realized something terrifying. Their dorm had given birth to a god-level monster. Suddenly, the potential screen began to glitch violently. The numbers distorted and twisted before finally displaying a warped, golden S that looked completely unnatural. The teachers shouted in shock, wondering aloud whether that even counted as another S-rank potential. Gong Ting stood frozen, completely speechless. His mind refused to process what his eyes were witnessing. Without warning, a danger alert began flashing across the screen, plunging the entire hall into tension and confusion. A second later, the warning changed to a bold red message. System error. The machine started shaking uncontrollably. Then, the screen flickered one last time before revealing a terrifying result. SSS value exceeds system maximum load. At that instant, one student completely lost control and began screaming in panic. Then, boom! The testing machine exploded into countless fragments with a deafening roar. Shockwaves rippled outward as debris scattered across the hall. The teachers shouted that the demonic heart had overloaded and rushed toward the booth without hesitation. Bursting inside, they called out anxiously, asking whether the student inside was still alive. But as one teacher stepped closer, his jaw slowly dropped. He was left utterly speechless. The demonic heart lay on the floor, completely destroyed, cracked and lifeless, as if it had been devoured from the inside. Another teacher muttered in disbelief, wondering whether the machine had simply burned out from being overused that day. Inside the booth, Si Chen frowned slightly. He realized he may have gone too far and accidentally destroyed the heart. But at the same time, he discovered something important. His gluttony power could devour even the core of a machine. Moments later, Si Chen walked out of the testing booth without a single scratch, calm and unharmed. As he stepped out, he decided to test his newly unlocked ability. Activating it quietly, his vision shifted, and suddenly, he could see the true ranks of everyone around him. The realization stunned him. This ability was incredibly convenient and would be invaluable for his future plans. When his gaze landed on Gong Ting, his eyes narrowed slightly. He could tell instantly that the council president had been hiding his true strength as well. With the testing machine destroyed, the teachers had no choice but to suspend the assessment due to the accident. They announced, that Si Chen's recorded data would be treated as an error, and that any students who hadn't been tested would have to return the next day. Despite this, Malong and the others celebrated loudly, insisting that no matter what the teacher said, Si Chen was undoubtedly a genius. Suddenly, Jiang Jin stormed forward, shouting angrily. He demanded to know how a loser like Si Chen could possibly reach C rank. He accused him of deliberately breaking the machine and claimed that because of him, the student council's plans would now be delayed. Si Chen grew annoyed. Lightning crackled in his palm as power gathered in his hand, his gaze turning cold. For a brief moment, he wondered whether he should just end this nuisance for good. Before he could act, Gong Ting stepped forward and stopped him. He calmly told Jiang Jin not to be disrespectful toward their new teammate. Jiang Jin froze, completely stunned. He couldn't comprehend what the president had just said. With a faint smile, Gong Ting turned to Si Chen and formally invited him to join his squad for the graduation assessment. He confidently stated that if they fought together, they would achieve the highest score in the school's history. On the other side, Malong and the others were utterly flabbergasted. A personal invitation from the student council president was something unheard of. One of Gong Ting's team members grew upset, pointing out that if Si Chen joined, someone else would have to be removed. The thug angrily questioned what right Si Chen had to join when others couldn't even get in using bribes. However, since the president himself had spoken, the man knew he had no real choice. Swallowing his pride, Jiang Jin forced a smile and welcomed the new member. But to everyone's shock, Si Chen refused the invitation on the spot. Jiang Jin stood completely paralyzed, unable to believe the audacity of what he had just witnessed. Even Gong Ting was taken aback, his expression turning serious as he stared at Si Chen. Annoyed beyond belief, Jiang Jin shouted that their team was the strongest. But Si Chen simply replied that he didn't care. With a cold, emotionless gaze, he warned them to never bother him again, then turned his back without hesitation. Leaving Jiang Jin burning with rage, Si Chen walked away alongside his friends. The crowd stood in shock. No one could believe that Si Chen had the nerve to reject the student council president outright. Some students began whispering that maybe he was aiming for first place himself. Others grinned, already anticipating the drama that was sure to follow. From a distance, his dorm mates laughed quietly at the bully's stunned expressions, thinking that Si Chen's attitude was incredibly brave. Gong Ting, however, calmly stopped his lackey and told him it was fine. He remarked that Si Chen seemed to have plans of his own. As the test officially ended, students slowly dispersed throughout the university courtyard. Director Yuan Long sighed with regret, lamenting that the two hadn't formed a team, as he had hoped to witness a new school record. The mysterious woman beside him smiled faintly and said that this unexpected turn had made things far more interesting. She explained that for someone like Gong Ting, such a refusal was nothing less than a declaration of war. Nearby, one of the student council members whispered a warning, saying that their president was not someone to be provoked. Jiang Jin, still furious, scoffed and claimed that Si Chen was just being arrogant because of an error in the power test. But Gong Ting remained silent, deep in thought. He wondered whether the test had truly been wrong, and then swore to himself that no one would ever take his first place. One of his subordinates offered to teach Si Chen a lesson, mocking him as nothing more than an inexperienced newbie. Gong Ting's gaze immediately turned cold. He glared at the man and asked whether he looked like someone so petty. The subordinate stiffened and quickly backed down. Annoyed, Gong Ting dismissed the team, saying he wasn't in the mood, and left by himself. As he walked away, he coldly remarked that whatever happened next had nothing to do with him. The goon hesitated at first, but then understood the meaning behind those words. A wicked smile crept onto his face as he confirmed that he understood completely, and that the president would remain uninvolved. 10 minutes later, someone hurried over to inform Jiang Jin that Si Chen had already left the campus. According to what he heard, Si Chen had said he was heading home and hadn't even stayed to eat. Jiang Jin crushed a soda can in his hand, his lips curling into a sinister smile. To him, this was fate siding with him. Outside the university, there would be no rules to protect Si Chen. Meanwhile, Si Chen walked calmly down the street near the university, completely unaware of the thug's plan. His mind was focused on something else, his own goals. He recalled an incident from the past, when an elite guild had discovered a powerful demon inside a lair. The creature, known as Wrath, had wiped out the entire team with a single attack. After that, the monster left the lair and began wreaking havoc across the human world. To locate Wrath's lair, Si Chen had finally devised a foolproof plan. However, to put that plan into action, he needed one thing first, a large amount of money. That was why he headed to the Myathil Monster Exchange, the largest materials trading center of the future. Si Chen knew better than anyone that weapons and equipment were vital for an awakened, and this place was his best opportunity. At the counter, he casually dumped a bundle of monster fangs. The appraiser stared in shock and asked how a mere student could obtain such an item. Si Chen calmly replied that it had dropped from a monster. The appraiser frowned, confused, saying he had never seen it before. However, a nearby female employee immediately recognized the item and explained that it was a Sang and Fang dropped by an E-rank monster. As she began explaining its uses, the appraiser cut her off rudely. He scoffed and said that E-rank items were worthless, boasting that he only dealt with D-rank items and above. He claimed he had no obligation to memorize useless junk. Internally, the appraiser complained that all the good clients had disappeared and that his promotion was still far away. Deciding the task wasn't worth his time, he handed it off to the newcomer instead. He told the girl to handle everything and turned his back, walking away without another word. A short while later, the woman returned and handed Si Chen a briefcase filled with cash. She politely asked whether he needed anything else. Seeing that the amount totaled 18,000, Si Chen nodded to himself. This money would be enough to cover his rent for now. With the first step completed, he said that he said there was one more thing. As Si Chen raised his hand, it began to glow ominously. In the next instant, a giant demonic sword materialized in his grasp. Wrapped in a sinister and overwhelming purple aura, the weapon radiated such pressure that the surrounding air seemed to tremble. The female employee's jaw dropped. She stared at the sword in complete shock, unable to believe her eyes, even though she had never seen such a weapon before. She instinctively felt that it had to be at least B rank, perhaps even A rank. The appraiser suddenly returned, scoffing loudly. He dismissed the idea outright, saying that A-rank weapons cost millions and that he had never seen one in his entire life. At that moment, a blue-haired man stepped forward from the side. Calmly, he stated that the weapon was not B rank, nor was it A rank. Hearing this, the appraiser immediately changed his attitude and began sucking up to the newcomer, insisting that a poor student like Si Chen couldn't possibly possess anything valuable. Then the blue-haired man spoke again. He revealed that the sword was an S-rank piece of equipment, forged in the Purgatory lands. The words hit like a thunderbolt. The female employee froze, completely paralyzed. The appraiser screamed in disbelief, his face turning pale as all color drained from it. Without hesitation, the blue-haired man stepped forward and enthusiastically shook Si Chen's hand, welcoming him as an extremely special guest. Moments later, he personally invited Si Chen to the VIP room, assuring him that any request he made would be handled immediately. As he followed, Si Chen allowed a faint smirk to appear on his face. Everything was unfolding exactly as he had planned. The man had finally shown up at the right moment. His name was Qingjai, and he was a key piece in Si Chen's plans. Then, the scene shifts to the VIP room. Inside, the atmosphere is quiet and refined. Qingju sits across from Chen, her posture composed as he calmly asks about the equipment he has brought to sell. After listening to his explanation, he waits for his price. Chen does not hesitate. In a steady voice, he replies, 1 million. The moment the number leaves his mouth, Qingju's composure cracks. Her eyes widen in shock as he looks at him in disbelief. "You're only asking for 1 million? He exclaims. "Sir, you do understand that even A-rank equipment can sell for millions, right? An S-rank weapon like this would fetch at least tens of millions on the market. If news of this spread, it could cause a stampede. This weapon is that valuable." Hearing her words, Chen's expression does not change. Instead, he speaks again, his tone serious and unwavering. "I want to use this S-rank weapon as collateral to get a loan of 1 million, he says. "I'll pay it back in 1 month. Qingji freezes, using an S-rank weapon as collateral for a loan. For a brief moment, her mind races. Is this really something a university student would think of? He wonders. It's clear now. He never intended to sell this sword. He plans to reclaim it later and use it himself. This kind of foresight, this calm calculation. He's far wiser than his age, suggests, and to possess such a treasure in the first place. Is he a rich young master who ran away from home? Or a hidden prodigy concealing his true strength? No matter which it is, one thing is certain. This man is not ordinary. While Qingju is lost in thought, Chen remains relaxed, leaning back slightly as he quietly enjoys his coffee, as if the conversation holds no pressure for him at all. After a moment, Chen speaks again. "I'll repay the principal in full within 1 month, he says calmly, "and I'll pay an additional 10% interest the following month. How does that sound?" Qingju looks at him deeply before finally speaking. "Shaoli, could you please step outside for a moment?" Shaoli nods and exits the room, closing the door behind her. The VIP room grows even quieter, leaving only the two of them inside. At that moment, Qingju finally speaks, or continue writing what Qingju says next in the same polished style. "If I'm not mistaken," Qingju says slowly, his gaze steady, "the school you attend is National Awakener University, correct? And the seniors there are about to graduate." After silently piecing together all the information and finishing his calculations, Qingju looks at Chen once more and speaks with certainty. "To my knowledge, National Awakener University holds an annual graduation examination. This year's examination is scheduled to take place exactly 1 month from now, and the prize awarded to first place is precisely 1 million. He pauses, letting the weight of his words sink in. "That amount aligns perfectly with the loan you're requesting, both in sum and in timing. If I had to make an educated guess, you're confident that you'll secure first place in that examination, aren't you?" The moment those words fall, the atmosphere in the room changes. A sharp, oppressive aura erupts from Chen's body. His killing intent surges uncontrollably, filling the VIP room like a suffocating pressure. At the same time, his eyes glow a deep crimson, and the anger on his face is unmistakable, no longer hidden behind calm indifference. Qingji rises from his seat without hesitation and calmly steps forward, unfazed by the overwhelming intent pressing down on him. You could have simply waited 1 month and collected the prize money, he says evenly. Yet instead, you're urgently offering a weapon of this caliber as collateral for a loan. His voice remains composed, analytical. That tells me you're in desperate need of money, right now, and no rational person would choose such a risky option unless they had no other choice. Unless this truly was your last resort. He stops directly in front of Chen. If that's the case, Qingji meets Chen's burning gaze and speaks decisively. Then I can loan you $1.5 million in cash, on the spot. 0 interest for 1 full month. He extends his hand toward Chen, a faint smile forming on his lips. Consider this the beginning of a friendship between us. Chen is completely stunned. For the first time since entering the VIP room, his composure cracks. He stares at Qingji, shock written plainly across his face, unable to immediately process what he has just heard. At that moment, Qingji flicks his eyes slightly, his smile deepening as he adds, "And rest assured, everything discussed here today will remain strictly confidential. And remember," Qingji adds with a cordial smile, "if you have any trading needs in the future, please consider our exchange as your first choice. I'll personally ensure you receive the best possible deal. What do you say?" Hearing this, Chen does not respond immediately. Instead, he reflects silently. With only a few scattered details, he was able to accurately infer my situation and my needs. Impressive, Chen thinks to himself. And rather than exploiting my predicament once he figured it out, he chose to offer even better terms for the sake of a long-term partnership. No wonder Qingji is destined to turn the Mithril Exchange into the world's premier exchange. If I want to eliminate Wrath, relying on my own strength alone won't be enough. I'll need trustworthy allies, and those allies must be people like him. With that decision made, Chen reaches forward. The two of them shake hands, and Chen presses his seal onto the contract paper, leaving behind a clear and binding mark. In the next instant, the transaction is completed. The funds are transferred directly into Chen's account, and a notification vibrates on his phone, confirming the arrival of the money. Holding up the contract, Qingji looks at Chen and says with a satisfied nod, "The magic contract is complete. The funds have already been transferred to your account." After a brief pause, curiosity flickers in his eyes. "By the way," he continues, "since you're using such an extraordinary weapon as collateral, what are you planning to use for the graduation examination?" He gestures lightly with one hand. "If you'd like, I can lend you some equipment. We don't currently have any S-rank items available, but we do have a wide selection of high-rank gear, A-rank, and even some excellent B-rank equipment." Chen listens calmly, then shakes his head. "No need," he replies. Then without another word, he casually reveals another weapon. An aura just as terrifying, just as overwhelming fills the room once again as an S-rank weapon appears in his hand. Looking at Qingji, Chen says evenly, "I've still got another weapon, just like the one I gave up." Seeing this, both Qingji and his assistant are completely dumbfounded. Their eyes nearly pop out of their sockets as the shock overwhelms them. "Holy shit!" they blurt out almost simultaneously. Chen does not linger. He calmly turns and begins to leave, his steps unhurried. Watching the sheer level of shock he has left behind, Qingji quickly regains his composure and calls out after him, still clearly shaken. "There truly are so many talented youths these days. Please take care, sir." As soon as Chen disappears from sight, Qingji turns sharply toward his assistant. "Thankfully, Xiaoli continued assisting such an important client," he says decisively. "You're promoted to supervisor, effective immediately." Xiaoli freezes for a moment before joy floods her face. She can barely contain her excitement. Meanwhile, the other assistant's expression darkens, resentment clearly written across his features. Just as the matter seems settled, Chen suddenly stops. "Oh," he says casually, turning back slightly. "I just remembered. I need to buy something here." The scene shifts. A taxi rolls to a stop in front of a large, aging building. The engine idles as Chen steps out and lifts his gaze upward. At the top of the building, bold letters are written, "Kangchang County, Long-Distance Bus Terminal." The moment Chen sees the sign, something stirs deep within him. Standing there, fragments of memories from his previous life come rushing back, triggered by the familiar sight. His expression grows distant as he begins to recall the past. "In my last life," Chen narrates quietly, "my family struggled financially for a long time. Back then, I had already graduated, but I still hadn't awakened. No guild was willing to take me in." Images flash through his mind. Endless rejection, exhaustion, desperation. "I scrambled to take whatever odd jobs I could find," he continues. "Yet even then, I could barely manage to scrape together enough money for rent." A single number surfaces in his memory, etched deeply into his mind. Remaining balance, $105.60. Uni and I had to live extremely frugally just to survive. At that time, Chen had already reached the brink, with almost nothing left to his name. Worry weighed heavily on him day after day, leaving him restless and exhausted. It was during that period that his sister suddenly spoke up. "I got a tutoring job," she said softly. "I'll be joining it soon." Not long after, a letter appeared in his memory. Printed clearly on the envelope were the words, "International Central Art Institute, admissions." Acceptance letter. Student, Si Chen. For a brief moment, hope flickered. But before it could fully bloom, Yoon tore the letter apart with trembling hands. I guess I got in after all, she said, forcing a smile. But it's too far away, and I want to stay near my big brother. Her words struck Chen like a blade. She was so afraid of adding more financial burden to the family, Chen narrates quietly, that my little sister gave up on her dream school. The scene shifts back to the present. Chen snaps out of his memories, the noise of the bus terminal slowly returning to his ears. He looks around, scanning the area instinctively. It's getting pretty late, he thinks. Yuni should have gotten off the bus by now. Just then, a familiar voice rings out from behind him. Bro! Before Chen can turn around, the voice continues, loud and exasperated. Bro, how many times have I told you? If you're picking someone up, you're supposed to wait at the exit, not the entrance. There's a brief pause, followed by a sigh full of frustration. We're broke again after paying this month's rent, and that person is none other than Si Chen, Chen's younger sister. As Chen looks at her, he realizes that she is still so small. The sight of her standing there, safe and unharmed, makes his chest tighten. Seeing her again like this fills him with an overwhelming sense of joy, one that he can barely contain. Yun tilts her head and calls out to him impatiently. Big bro! Come give me a hand with this luggage. Big bro? She frowns when he doesn't move. Why are you just standing there like a dummy? What's wrong with you, big brother? In the very next moment, Chen suddenly steps forward and pulls Yun into a tight embrace. The force of the hug catches her completely off guard. In his last life, Chen had been powerless, unable to protect her, unable to give her anything, unable to stop her from sacrificing her dreams for his sake. But this time was different. This time, he swears to himself that he will do everything for her. Emotion surges uncontrollably within him. Yun stiffens in his arms, utterly stunned by his behavior. After a long moment, Chen finally speaks, his voice low and trembling. It's been 7 years since I've been able to see you, Yuni. He calls her by her nickname without realizing it. But Yun immediately pushes him away, her face turning red as she shouts, Bro! She glares at him fiercely. Are you trying to choke me to death? She straightens her clothes and begins scolding him without mercy. You've been acting really weird these past couple of days. Did you get rejected by a girl or something? With a huff, she throws her bag toward him. Hurry up! Let's go home. Let's go home. Chen and Yun walk side by side toward their home. Along the way, Chen talks casually about his studies, about the preparation he's done for his exams, the effort he's put in, and how hard he's been working recently. He keeps his tone light, as if everything is perfectly normal. As he listens to his own words, Chen glances at his sister and thinks quietly to himself, this time, you won't have to suffer because of me. Hearing him speak with such confidence and determination, Yun's mood visibly brightens. She listens with a smile, clearly reassured by her brother's words. Her steps light as they walk together. Just then the scene cuts. A narrow, dimly lit alley comes into view. Several rough-looking men are gathered there, their figures lurking in the shadows. One of them speaks in a low voice. This is definitely the route that punk Si Chen takes to get home. The speaker steps forward, his face twisting with hatred. It is none other than Jiang Jian. Go hide, he orders coldly. The moment he shows up, we'll jump him. I'll make sure he learns what happens when you mess with me. As he speaks, fury burns in his eyes, anger born from their last encounter, an encounter whose outcome is already known all too well.